Coronavirus vaccine maker AstraZeneca is in the spotlight once again. U.S. health officials have raised concerns about the data used in the late-stage trial for the company's vaccine. That trial data was released Monday. The AstraZeneca vaccine has not yet been approved in the U.S. So far, more than 1/4 of the population has now received at least one dose of a vaccine, and more than 45 million people are fully vaccinated. Meg Oliver reports from Hoboken, New Jersey.
Tonight, accusing AstraZeneca, federal health officials and an independent oversight board saying AstraZeneca presented outdated and potentially misleading data about the effectiveness of its vaccine after the company announced yesterday that the vaccine was 79% effective against COVID infections. Also expressing frustration today, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
It really is unfortunate that this happened. You know, this is really what you call an unforced error, because the fact is, this is very likely a very good vaccine.
But there's some good news tonight about Johnson & Johnson's vaccine after worries over supply shortages. The FDA late today cleared the way for a facility to help meet demand, but one other facility is still awaiting word. This is more than half the country has announced plans to make vaccines available to anyone 16 and over by the 1st of May.
We're seeing more states expand access to the vaccine, but do we have the supply?
All of that depends on the supply actually getting to states and getting to folks that can actually administer the vaccine, and we haven't seen that yet.
But time may be running out. As more people travel and new variants continue to fuel a rise in cases, New York reporting its first case of a concerning variant first detected in Brazil that is more contagious, and at least 19 states now seeing a substantial increase in infections, like New Jersey, which has the third highest positivity rate nationwide and where hospitalizations have topped 2,000 for the first time in a month.
We got 12 COVID-19 admissions last night. That is a sharp increase from what we've seen over the last several weeks. In fact, it's the highest number of admissions overnight that we've had in almost 2 months.
Tonight, the uptick in the number of cases is a concern here in the New York metro area. But today, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio made a bold announcement, bringing back 80,000 city employees May 3rd, an effort to send the message New York is trying to return to normal. Elaine?
Meg Oliver, thank you. Dr. Teresa Amato joins me now. She's the Director of Emergency Medicine at Long Island Jewish Forest Hills. Doctor, welcome. Good to see you again. So more than 1/4 of the U.S. has received at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine, and it's been over a year since COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. What do you make of the current pace of our vaccinations?
Well, very excited to see that we have been able to increase the number of vaccines we're getting into people's arms. I think we're around 2.5 million vaccines per day. And when you really think about this, we started rolling out this vaccine somewhere around the middle of December. And within a few months, we're doing 2.5 million vaccines a day. So that's pretty incredible when you think about it. The fact that 25% of Americans have gotten at least a vaccine it's an incredible job. A lot of people are involved in that. The manufacturers who are making the vaccines, the people that are transporting the vaccines, and then the people putting the vaccines in people's arms. It's an incredible logistic challenge, but it really seems like people are rising to the level that we need them to get more and more people vaccinated.
Well, scientists at Oxford University are mixing and matching coronavirus vaccines in the first trial of its kind. Now, there is no placebo for this study. Is this safe?
So we've always known that there was going to be a possibility that we would have to really think outside the box when it comes to vaccines. In the beginning, we just wanted to make sure that we had enough for people to get 2 of the same vaccine, realizing that that's very challenging sometimes. People may not know which vaccine they got, may not know exactly the date they got it on. And so we always knew that there was going to be some challenges with seeing if people could adhere to getting 2 of the same vaccines. I think that, if you think about how the vaccines work, and they're very similar, they kind of code for a different part of the spike protein. It doesn't sound or doesn't think like there's going to be any kind of an issue, but really we don't have studies on it. So I commend them for trying to actually study it. I think they've gotten about 800 volunteers, and they're going to be looking at different combinations, both of the 2 vaccines that are RNA-based, and then also the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
All right, we'll continue to watch what happens with that situation. In the meantime, top health experts are warning the U.S. could experience another surge in coronavirus cases. What are the biggest threats to our progress at this time? And are you seeing early signs of another surge at your hospital?
So I think surge is sort of an interesting word. Anytime you have an increase in something, I guess you can call it a surge. But we're not seeing what we saw in the spring of last year, which was an overwhelming surge that we really struggled to get the patients the care they needed. This year, what we're seeing is more of a slow and steady kind of burn. We had been seeing like big decreases in numbers, and now we sort of plateaued off. And so we're just kind of seeing this, slow and steady group of people that are still coming in COVID positive. I will tell you, when I speak to people that are testing positive for COVID, many of them are able to sort of talk about where they think they may have been infected, where they let their guard down, took their mask off, was in a larger group. And I am seeing again what I saw last spring, where whole families are coming in with COVID. So someone practices a little bit of not social distancing or not wearing their mask, and unfortunately gets the COVID virus, infected with the COVID virus, and then transmits it to many family members. And I get really concerned for the people that are higher risk, like older adults. So I would still encourage people, especially if you have an older adult living in your home, or you have a loved one that's in a risk category, to just keep doing the social distancing, mask wearing, and avoiding the large crowds. If I really had to put my finger on what's still driving these numbers, I would say it's just fatigue. People are just really tired of having to put these safety measures into effect. And I know it's hard, but with the numbers of the vaccines going up, now's the time where we could just really hunker down and crush this curve and then get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Well, finally, Doctor, a study conducted by Northwestern Medicine found 85% of COVID long haulers experienced neurologic symptoms, including brain fog, headache, and numbness. Remind us, what do we know about long COVID at this point? And what would you advise to anyone experiencing these symptoms?
So I think the studies now are a little preliminary. We always knew that there was some neurological effects of COVID. If you think about it, people losing their smell, that was really a telltale sign that they had the COVID infection. The sense of smell comes from something called your olfactory bulb, which sort of sits in your brain area and then transmits neurotransmitters into your brain. And we knew from the beginning that people were having this sort of strange, can't smell, can't really taste. So that was already effect on the brain. So we knew that was happening. And we know that there were people that lost their smell and taste for many months and still have a loss of taste and smell. But what the researchers are looking at now is they're looking at some autopsies that were done, unfortunately, on patients that did pass from the COVID. And what they were finding is some pretty scary changes in their brain. And mostly it was the blood flow, the blood vessels, not from the coronavirus itself, but from the body's inflammatory response, had really kind of eaten away at the walls that were carrying blood to and from the brain. And so that's really concerning, because you can have things like almost like stroke-like symptoms, and it's not actually the COVID, it's your body's response to it. What these long-term effects are going to be, I don't think anybody knows yet, but it's kind of scary to think about. So just another reason to be really careful and try as hard as you can not to be infected or infect other people.
It really is sobering, Doctor, to hear those details and to think about how much it is that we just don't know at this point, and we will not know, as you say, for a very long time to come. All right, Dr. Teresa Amato for us. Doctor, thank you.
Thank you.